Hi, I'm Prateek from GiftAbled. Today we have the honor of having HP's HR Head India, Sowjanya Reddy, with us. Thank you, Sowjanya, for speaking with us. We will be quickly covering all the D&I different topics and subjects, and Sowjanya will be giving us inputs on how HP is working on different subjects of D&I. Let me, without any further ado, let me start off with the first question. Sowjanya, diversity and inclusion in India kind of mirrors all different causes which are prevalent in US. Mm-hmm. And even though there is a difference economically or culturally between West and India, I do not see many threads very specific to India or Asia being driven from here. I was wondering if you can actually throw some light and share your thoughts on it.
Sure, Prateek. Having lived in the US and India, I think I do have formed some kind of an opinion on this. So a lot of the issues that diversity, like candidates or we face with driving diversity in the West and here, are pretty similar, the issues that we face. There are just two areas where there is a difference, right? And one is in the US, they primarily live in nuclear families. So the woman, a lot of her decision making is driven by her, and at best maybe she consults with her spouse or partner, right? Whereas in India, largely, a woman's decision is actually impacted by the family, right? Her extended family, her in-laws, maybe even neighbors, friends, everybody has an opinion, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it gets a little bit more challenging to actually drive in the direction that she might want to go, right? That's one. Two, I think when it comes to household chores or how to run the house, in the West, there's a lot more participation from the partner or spouse, right? And here, it is very different. It's automatically assumed, even if the woman has a great career and is extremely successful, it's not just the others in her ecosystem, but she herself who assumes that the duty of taking and responsibility of taking care of children, in-laws, parents is hers, right? So that's why it makes it uniquely challenging for women in India, right? Yes. So I have really, after relocating to India from the US, have gained tremendous respect for the Indian woman who juggles, right, these, conflicting situations, and in many cases is very, very successful at work. So I think if I understand your question, what can we do differently? I think helping women succeed in the workforce is not one person's responsibility or one group's responsibility. I think the whole ecosystem has to come together and led by the woman herself. Right? In terms of, we have to develop more resilience, because nobody is going to come and say, you know what, I think you're very talented, so here, go with your career and hand it to you on a platter, right? There's going to be a lot of, conflicts, and, you need to develop the resilience, the confidence, the determination, right? And the willingness to influence your entire ecosystem to align to your aspirations and help you drive your objectives or your goals, right? So,
makes sense. So, some leading organizations are taking support of men in the company to actually push forward with the agenda of gender inclusion or to reduce the gender diversity gap.
Sure.
They are bringing in men as allies, and they are saying that responsibility and ownership of pushing forward the agenda of career development of women should also fall on men. So what are your thoughts, and if there is anything else which you think from your long career that something else needs to be done to reduce the gender diversity gap in middle and senior leadership roles?
Sure. It's a good question, Prateek. And like I said in response to your previous question, right? Diversity isn't the responsibility of one group, right? While it's great that, we are, recruiting allies. In fact, at HP, we have 300 of them. So it's great, right? And, we actually are very, very focused on diversity metrics, because if you are not intentional about it, nothing will happen. It's great to say, we want to have an inclusive environment. We want to have, diversity, embrace diversity in all its forms. You really have to put your might behind it, right? So we are very focused. We actually go by organization, by manager, and actually, drive it, right? The other thing we really do is every time you're going to open a requisition and you go into the tool, you have to take an inclusion and diversity online course, right? It's like a 5 to 6 minute capsule, but it actually talks about why diversity. It talks about how at HP diversity and inclusion are the cornerstones, right, for us, and how diversity drives and fuels our innovation, right? It talks about how you need to start to write gender inclusive job descriptions, right, where you're not biased towards using certain verbs and adjectives that are attributed to gender, like the words dominant and aggressive appeal to males, right? Passion, loyalty appeals to females, right? Then we also talk about unconscious bias, and all of our managers in India, 100% of our managers have been trained in unconscious bias, right? Because without you realizing it, you want to recruit people from your own batch, your own area, your own culture, cultural background, and before you know it, you've got a group of people who think exactly like you. So where's the innovation coming? Where's the fresh and wider perspectives coming, right? And we're very clear, right? You look at the numbers, you look at research, diversity and inclusion has a direct impact on profitability, right? No doubt, right? 70% of diverse and inclusive environments have a better chance in capturing, 70% better chance of capturing new markets, right? Diverse companies perform better in terms of shareholder value, 15% higher in shareholder value, right? Ethnically diverse companies outperform industry norms by 35%. I mean, I can go on and on, right? And for every 1% move, right, towards diversity, there's 3% increase in revenue.
Wow.
So, I mean, you just can't ignore, driving a more inclusive and diverse environment.
Exactly. There is a solid business case for
absolutely
going with inclusion, and there cannot be any other reason. I mean, because you will lose out on business opportunity if you're not doing it.
Absolutely. So it's male allies, right? It's institutions or firms like us, right, that have to drive it. It's the woman herself. Right? A company can have a lot of programs and an ecosystem, but if a woman doesn't leverage that, it's not going to happen, right? So I think we as women, and I, in all my, when I'm asked to address women forums, I always ask people, what do you think are the barriers that are holding us back, right? And if you look at it, it's a crisis of confidence. We'll never raise our hands for a stretch assignment or the next level opportunity if we don't think we're 100% ready for that role, right? We want to be perfect, so it's perfectionism versus excellence. We want to be that perfect leader, perfect mom, perfect everything, right? We hold ourselves back. 3, I think we really hesitate. The need for us to be accepted is so high that we hesitate to make those tough decisions, because acceptability is so important for us, right? And then networking. It's not that we're not good at it. It's just that we don't prioritize, right? And we just don't leverage those critical relationships in our ecosystem, right? So I think these are some of the things that we need to work on. And, if we do, I think, we can overcome all of those lifestyle issues we face, the institutional, barriers, the individual mindsets. So I really think, women have to lead it.
Sowjanya, there has been a lot of buzz around Gen Z.
Yes.
Multi-generation or 3 generations working under the same roof is something which will become a norm, or has already become a norm. How do you plan to accommodate the changes which will come as we bring in Gen Z also as part of workforce? Their upbringing or their way of thinking is very different. The way we traditional companies have worked, and the values and ethics which companies like HP brings on board, right? And working along with the very flexible way of thinking of Gen Z. So how this will all be reconciled and ensure that productivity is not impacted? In your thoughts, please.
Sure. So by 2020, Prateek, we'll actually have 5 generations working under the same roof. So it'll be pretty interesting as to how the workforce of the future is going to evolve. But the way I look at it is, every generation brings its set of strengths. If you look at our world today, it's a world of instant and a world of customization. Right? The way you download your music, the way you shop today, for example, or it's instant, right? Imagine if you're online and you want to order a book, and it takes 48 hours to get to you. Right? What would you do? Right? Or if the site doesn't work, you're just going to, like all the Gen Z guys, they're just going to keep moving to the next, to one that works, right? So they want everything instant, right? So how do you cater to that, right? How do you do that, right? But yet when they come into the 4 walls of a company, everything's not instant because we are still trying to catch up, right? So a lot of the stuff that we are doing today, be it machine learning, robotics, automation, is all around, how can we make the experience customized, right? And instant to people, right? And, the way we recognize Gen Z, the way we address them, they don't like coming to coffee talks. We want to now force them to come. Whereas, the older generation loves to have that face-to-face, right? If I talk to the millennials in my team, they're like, just send me a message, Sowjanya. I don't need a face-to-face, right? And I'm thinking, how can I do a career conversation through texting you? He said, will the phone work better for you? So I think you've got to just customize as you go along, because the important thing is, how do you keep them engaged? How do you create stickiness? And I think, this unconscious bias that I was talking about really helps people to see things differently. Because those of us who are older, who've been in the workforce for a longer time, we tend to think, oh my God, these kids don't know what they want. But guess what? They actually know what they want. Right? They don't want to be in a company that keeps them in a job for 5 years. So I think it's really important, right, to look at what excites people. How do you want to recognize them, right? How do you want to motivate them? Sometimes recognition for Gen Z is about working on cutting edge projects. Right? It's not about having a town hall and having them walk up in front of all their, the entire company and giving them an award or something, right? So how do you keep these generations engaged, excited about, the future of the company and participate in it in a real way,
We contribute towards the building of the company, in the sense, both ensuring that productivity is met, and actually it drives the top line, bottom line growth with inclusion.
Correct.
Exactly. Makes sense.
Correct. And we're looking at how managers can actually hire more inclusive teams, right? And be part of inclusive teams. We actually call out, right, and managers who are not doing that. In fact, when people hire the same clone, right, we send it back and say, but help me understand what this person will do for us, right? He's done this and this at this company, at company A. He's going to come to us and do the same ABC things here. So what are we trying to achieve here, right? It's tough though, right? Because, we just go with what we are already comfortable doing, right? And now you have to actually start changing the way you look at things, right? So we encourage people, when you're expanding your teams or looking at, someone has left or moved on to a new role and you're looking at complementing, your existing skill set, look for skills, look for growth mindset, look for people who can work in teams. right? Look for people who have worked in diverse teams, right? So really that education and actually leaders themselves, role modeling that helps tremendously in an organization.
Sowjanya, an article in Wall Street Journal mentioned research by Hackett Group that demonstrated that companies who are following the practices of supplier diversity, they have achieved 133% greater returns on their procurement investments than the typical business. In India, supplier diversity is still in nascent stage. Few of the companies are doing it, but a lot of other companies have the potential. But we do realize that supplier diversity has the potential to create a huge livelihood opportunity in a scaled up manner, not just in cities but even in hinterlands. I was wondering, okay, what are your thoughts and any inputs from your own experience will be of great help.
Actually, I find that this is still in a nascent stage in India, Prateek. I don't see many companies going that route. But we as a company in HP, we've already initiated this almost a year and a half ago. So we were one of the first companies that actually, even for the US, in the US, right? So our chief legal officer, Kim Rivera, actually, I think it was in the news a lot. She decided to hold back 10% of legal fees from the law firms that we were outsourcing work to till they met their diversity metric, right? So it was actually held back. Then again in marketing, our chief marketing officer, Antonio, also did the same thing. Said, unless you've achieved a certain percentage of diversity, right, in your company, you can't empanel with us. Right, so we are hoping that we can, take a leaf from that book and actually try to start doing something in India. But there are some huge challenges, as you are aware, in terms of our ecosystem, because if it's not mature, right? So if I say, I'm not going to do business with you, there are 25 other companies that will do business with them, right? So I think we as an industry have to come together, like to really push this.
But you see the potential in this whole...
I think there's a huge potential. I really think, that's why I said in my, earlier response to your question, right? This whole diversity issue can be resolved if the entire ecosystem comes together. Absolutely. It's not the responsibility of one group, right? Yeah. So it's the government, which is the largest employer, right? That can actually lead the way, right? It's the male allies I was talking about. It's the woman herself who can help herself as well as other women rise, right? It's the families, right? It's when I say male allies, it could be husbands, brothers, sons, right? It's, everybody who actually, help push this agenda forward.
Sowjanya, in India, we have 100 million plus people with disabilities, and the organized sector jobs are less than 50 million. So there is a big mismatch as far as the math is concerned. Where do you see opportunities for people with disability? Eventually, we have to ensure that they are also part of mainstream society. They are able to contribute. That way, even country can have a vibrant economy because everyone is pushing forward with productivity and efficiency. So, I just want to know, where do you see that we can actually engage them meaningfully in the current set of economic focused work which we are doing?
It's a great question, Prateek. I think, 4 years ago, we actually decided to hire 10 mute individuals, right? We partnered with a NGO just to pilot it, right? You won't believe the kind of results we had, right? These folks did not want to take a break, right? Their performance in terms of attendance, accuracy, this is invoice processing, right, was far better than anyone else. Okay, than their so-called other colleagues, to a point where, we used to display metrics and, how they were doing. The others actually said, please, just bring it down. This is not a good thing, right? So, we've had a good success, but let me tell you what's happening and the two challenges I see. One is a lot of the repetitive transactional work is getting automated, right? In the thing with robotics and automation and stuff. So the opportunities are shrinking in corporates, right? Two, I think the whole ecosystem doesn't exist, right? How do we train them? Today, if I'm looking for a trained engineer, I can get so many agencies to come and talk to me and provide me with a pipeline of engineers that I can choose from, right? I can go to campuses, right? If I look at the same ecosystem for people who are PWD with disabilities, I just don't see it, right? So I feel as a country itself, and maybe even as a world, we are not focused, right, on and not making that as a priority. Because if you give me somebody, right, who's trained, or I can have like an agency that comes in and understands my requirements and provides me with people, it takes me, instant, right? Instantly, I would, or even our managers would be interested. But it's gotten to a point where we're doing pilots and we're making people aware, right? But when it comes to actually finding those roles where we can use them productively, meaningfully, right? They're shrinking.
Yeah, that's a great point. In fact, we are working with Dilip on some similar this thing, and I hope that we'll be able to address this problem.
Yes.
And HP can find right kind of profiles in the numbers which they are looking at, and we can actually increase the employment opportunity for people with disabilities.
Prateek, I was talking to my R&D leader, right? And he said, show me somebody who has analytics or machine learning. I'd love to hire this person, right?
Yeah,
and I was like just lost. I mean, where do I go, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where to start, right? So I really think if, we can get equipped with, or even somebody who takes the charge, right, and leads from the front in terms of, I keep going back to the government, but that's not something that, I don't want to, put everything back on the government, even like maybe the government public-private sector partnerships, right, that could work really well. I think we could do a lot. I mean, there's so much talent there that we could leverage and harness, right, and really impact productivity and efficiency in a very, very positive way.
So coming to our last question, Sowjanya. So how is HP pushing forward the agenda of diversity and inclusion? You have given me a lot of inputs anyways, but if you can actually share a few examples how it makes HP much more productive or efficient by following these best practices of D&I.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, these inclusion and diversity are cornerstones, of our philosophy, and really we believe that diversity is what really fuels our innovation engine, Prateek. So let me give you a couple of examples. We noticed that, our mid-level managers, right, women were just not, we didn't have a strong pipeline of women leaders, right? So what we did is we started a program called Disha. It was conceived in India, right? It's one of the best practices that we're planning to export to the APJ region, right? So we've gone through 2 cohorts so far, right? And of the 72 women that have attended these sessions, it's a 6-month leadership program, right? They get exposure to global leaders. They learn about design thinking. They get some speed coaching. So a well-rounded program, right? So just to give you, you're asking about, how does this impact your productivity? We measure, like I said, everything we do, right? We measure, right? It's important. Otherwise, just don't do something for the sake of doing it, right? So we've had 22% of those women being promoted, right? And 100% retention in the last 2 years.
Wow.
Right?
So unheard numbers.
So, and we believe, and what is even better is that it's become so aspirational for other women that they're reaching out and saying, when's the next cohort? Where can we sign up? Right? So we'll go through this program with, the entire middle management layer, right? On the exec side, we've got a project called Mariner, which is headed by our TA group, a talent acquisition group. What they do is, regardless of whether we have open positions or not, they start to engage with senior leaders, right? And now we've gone to all other levels as well, because we really believe that unless you have a solid diversity pipeline starting at the bottom, you already know what it'll look like when it gets to the top.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So they actively engage with women.
Okay.
And introduce them to HP, ask them about their aspirations, and then classify them in buckets. Are they warm? Are they passive? Or are they, warm passive?
Okay.
Right? And so we engage with them. We ask our leaders to take them for a cup of coffee and just get to know them, right? And then when we do have a job, we reach out. Right, so it's very intentional, our strategy around this, right? We have one coming up in the pipeline called Reboot, where women who've taken a break, right, either for maternity reasons or because they had to take care of a family member who was critically ill, whatever the reason may be, that they've had a break in their careers, we want to invite them back, right, and say, we'll give you a 6-month internship. If you like it and you decide this is the place you want to transition back to and your performance is good, then, you have a job with us, right?
And this is for HP women who have left.
Who've left, even women who are not at HP.
Okay, even for outside.
Correct.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah.
Correct. So our goal is, belong, innovate and grow. So it's big. Right? Belong, innovate, and grow is really our tagline, right? And I think we're going to make great strides in this area. We have a long way to go. Diversity percentage in India is 32%. We want to take that up to 40 by 2020.
Awesome. All the best with that, Sowjanya.
Thank you, Prateek.
I know HP has been a torchbearer in the space of diversity and inclusion for decades together. I know that HP will do awesome work. It has been a great learning for me personally. All these things what HP is doing, facts, numbers, and the way they are capturing, way you are capturing the metrics, which is very important. We have to quantify all these things. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak with you, to know what's happening in HP, and look forward to meeting you again, and again in 2020 catching up and figuring out the next roadmap for HP and what's happening. Cool. Thanks a lot, Sowjanya.
Thank you, Prateek. Thank you so much for being out here. It's such a pleasure to be interacting with you and GiftAbled, sorry. And I really am a strong admirer of your work. And we've done so many initiatives with GiftAbled. So I'm looking forward to staying connected and deepening this partnership, and hope together we can really positively impact the communities and the societies we live in. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.